Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we're going to tell the truth. Not the sugar-coated surface level, make everybody comfortable kind of truth. No, we're going deeper than that. We live in a world where the word nice gets thrown around like it's a gold star. She's such a nice girl. Me's so nice to her. But niceness, when you strip it down, doesn't require much. It's polite smiles, it's holding doors open, it's remembering a birthday or saying a please and a thank you. And don't get me wrong, those things have value, but we have confused niceness with substance. We have dressed it up and called it character, called it strength, called it love. When in reality, niceness can be the very thing that keeps us from going deeper, from telling the truth, from doing the work. Being nice to a woman might make you likable, but it doesn't make you trustworthy. Niceness is easy. It doesn't take risk. You can be nice and still be distant. You can be nice and still be dishonest. You can be nice and still not see her for who she is, because being nice is about staying comfortable. It's about avoiding conflict, keeping everything smooth on the surface, even if everything underneath is screaming for something real. Niceness makes everything look good, but respect makes everything be good. And that's the difference. Respect requires intention. It demands awareness. Respect doesn't just smile at a woman. It listens to her, learns from her, leans into her strength. Respect doesn't fear her power. It honors it. And sometimes respect looks like telling her a hard truth. Sometimes it looks like not letting her settle for less. Sometimes it's not about being agreeable, but being accountable. That's why respect will always go further than nice ever could. Because nice might make you feel good in the moment, but respect builds something that lasts. Nice is based on what's seen, respect is rooted in what's known. And when you really respect someone, you move differently, you speak differently. You don't just compliment her on what she's wearing. You affirm her mind, her vision, her voice. You don't just say what's convenient, you say what's necessary. You show up when it's hard, not just when it's fun. You protect her peace even when she's not in the room. That's the weight of respect. A lot of women have been nicely dismissed in meetings with a smile, dismissed in relationships with empty compliments, dismissed in life with polite words that never translated into action. And the world has the nerve to wonder why women are tired of being nice in return, tired of being agreeable to survive, tired of being praised for softness but punished for strength. We taught women to be nice so they could be palatable. We never taught people to respect them so they could be powerful. And this is where the shift has to happen, because if your niceness doesn't lead to elevation, it's not helpful, it's harmful. If your compliments don't turn into collaboration, you're not building anything, you're babysitting egos. And we don't need to be babysat. We need to be built with, fought for, challenged, and covered in something deeper than politeness. We need people who can stand in our light without shrinking it, who can correct us without controlling us, who can see us in our fullness and not flinch. Niceness keeps things safe. Respect creates space for growth, space for conflict, space for healing, space for truth. And truth isn't always nice. Truth is sharp. Truth is holy. Truth is the thing that breaks us open and shows us who we really are. So if all you can offer a woman is niceness, don't be surprised when she stops being impressed. Don't be surprised when she doesn't smile back. Don't be surprised when she stops making herself small just to make you feel big, because nice was never enough, not for who she is, not for what she's carrying. Women are not looking for another nice guy. They're not looking for someone to flatter them into submission. They're not looking for someone to hold the door but never hold a standard. They're looking for someone who sees the weight of their calling and chooses to show up anyway. Someone who's not afraid of the fire in her belly. Someone who doesn't just see her as beautiful, but sees her as brilliant, sees her as bold, sees her as a force to be reckoned with. That's what respect does. It doesn't dilute, it recognizes, it doesn't reduce, it releases. We live in a culture that's mastered the art of appearing good without actually being good. It's possible to speak in soft tones, use all the right words, with a smile that says I care, and still be completely disconnected from truth and responsibility. Kindness has become a costume. It looks like compassion, but it doesn't cost anything. It sounds like love, but it lacks conviction. It promises safety, but it delivers silence. And when kindness is used as a shield to avoid accountability, it becomes one of the most dangerous forms of manipulation. Because here's the truth, real kindness tells the truth, even when it's uncomfortable. Real kindness doesn't pacify, it purifies. It doesn't just tell people what they want to hear, it tells them what they need to know. When you strip kindness of its backbone, when you take away its connection to accountability, it becomes a tool for control. It becomes a way to avoid conflict while still getting your way. It becomes a performance, not a principle. And far too often, women have found themselves on the receiving end of that kind of kindness. She gets the sweet words, the tender gestures, the charming apologies, but none of it is tied to real change. She hears, "I didn't mean to hurt you," but she never sees different behavior. She's told, "You're amazing," but she's never supported in her purpose. She's comforted in the moment, but left confused in the long run. And that confusion, that disorientation, that's what manipulation thrives on. Because if I can keep you feeling good, I never have to deal with the fact that I'm doing wrong. If I can keep you emotionally calm, I never have to be spiritually honest. This is what happens when kindness becomes a substitute for accountability. It gives just enough warmth to keep people close, but not enough integrity to keep them whole. And the truth is, a lot of people would rather look kind than be accountable. Accountability costs. It costs ego, it costs comfort, it costs reputation, but it's the only thing that builds trust. So it builds trust. And without trust, kindness is just decoration. It's window dressing on a house with a broken foundation. When you're truly kind, you don't avoid accountability, you welcome it. Because you understand that to love someone, to honor them, to walk with them in truth, you have to be willing to own your impact. You can't just say, "I didn't mean to," and expect the damage to disappear. You have to ask, "What can I do to make this right?" You have to be more committed to her healing than your comfort. You have to be more concerned with restoring the relationship than protecting your image. And that's the difference between kindness and manipulation. Motive. Manipulation cloaks itself in kindness to get what it wants. It uses gentle tones to silence the storm it created. It distracts with charm so it never has to confront change. It teaches women to settle for "at least he's nice," while they slowly lose their voice, their value, their vision. And then when she speaks up, when she asks for more, when she finally says, "This isn't enough," she's painted as ungrateful, as difficult, as hard to love. But the truth is, she was never hard to love. She just stopped accepting love that came with conditions and no correction. Because love without accountability is a lie. It tells you you're safe, but it doesn't protect you. It tells you you're seen, but it doesn't respect you. And too many women have been caught in cycles where kindness was used to keep them compliant, to keep them close but not empowered, to keep them dependent but not supported. And the longer that goes unchecked, the more destructive it becomes, because she starts to doubt herself. She starts to believe that asking for clarity is a too much, that setting boundaries is a mean, that speaking up is unladylike. But what's truly unkind is asking someone to shrink just so you can feel big. Real kindness doesn't avoid truth, it walks in it. It shows up even when it's messy. It shows up even when it's messy. It doesn't deflect, it reflects. It says, "If I've hurt you, I want to know." It says, "If I've missed it, I want to make it right." It doesn't hide behind sweet words, it backs them up with sincere actions. That's the kind of kindness that heals. That's the kind of kindness that transforms. Because it's rooted in responsibility, it's anchored in humility, and it refuses to use charm as a substitute for character. We've built a world where women are constantly praised, but rarely empowered. They are celebrated for how they look, how softly they speak, how well they nurture others, how much they endure without complaint. Compliments flow freely when a woman is quiet, compliant, agreeable. She's told she's a so sweet, a so easygoing, a so selfless. And at first it sounds like admiration. It feels like affirmation, but hidden beneath those praises is a message that says stay where you are. Stay soft, stay silent, stay still. Don't grow too loud, too bold, too big, too bold, too big. Because the moment she does, the compliments shift, the applause gets quieter, the praise turns into critique. We don't even realize how often our praise comes with a lid, how often we reward women for fitting into molds that were never meant to hold their full capacity. She's praised for being the support system, but never the visionary. She's celebrated for standing behind a man, but questioned when she wants to stand beside him or ahead of him. She's affirmed when she sacrifices, but criticized when she sets boundaries. We give her flowers for shrinking and silence when she dares to expand. And then we wonder why so many women second guess their worth, their voice, their power. When praise is used to keep someone small, it's not a gift, it's a cage, a beautifully decorated, emotionally manipulative cage. It feels good because it's lined with nice words. It's reinforced by tradition, by culture, by outdated expectations, but it's still a cage because any compliment that's only valid when she's convenient or comfortable for you is not real praise. It's control. It's the illusion of support without the substance of it. It says, I like you better when you don't challenge me. I admire you more when you stay quiet. I value you only when you serve me. There's a kind of praise that flatters but doesn't fuel. It keeps women stuck in roles they've outgrown, keeps them holding up systems that never served them, keeps them apologizing for being too ambitious, too opinionated, too free. We praise her for being strong when she has no choice but to survive, but we rarely praise her when she chooses herself. We celebrate her resilience in the fire, but we don't celebrate her for walking away from what lit the match. That's not empowerment. It's exploitation dressed up as admiration. What would happen if we stopped praising women only when they're digestible? What would shift if we celebrated women when they speak up, when they take up space, when they demand more? It's not just about compliments, it's about capacity. Are we building women up or are we boxing them in? Are we calling out their greatness or are we conditioning them to stay palatable? A woman who starts to believe that her only value is in being agreeable will start to dim her light on purpose. She'll stop asking for raises. She'll quiet her ideas. She'll water herself down so she doesn't offend the room. And people will keep complimenting her for it. They'll say she's a humble when really she's hiding. They'll say she's easy to work with when really she's carrying the weight of being overlooked. They'll say she's a down-to-earth when really she's exhausted from pretending she's not meant to soar. There is a difference between honoring someone and handling them, and too many women are being handled, carefully maneuvered into roles that keep everyone else comfortable. Told they are queens but not given kingdoms, told they are powerful but not trusted with power, told they are wise but not invited to lead. That kind of praise is a performance. It looks good on the outside, but on the inside it drains a woman of her fire, her focus, her freedom. We must stop equating compliance with character. We must stop confusing people-pleasing with purpose. A woman's strength is not in how little space she takes up. It's in how fully she shows up. It's in how honestly she speaks. It's in how courageously she confronts what's broken. And if our praise is only showing up when she's in a posture that benefits us, then it's not rooted in love, it's rooted in fear. Fear of her becoming more than we can control. Fear of her rising higher than we anticipated. Fear of what happens when she realizes she was never meant to shrink. It's easy to praise a woman's beauty. Society has trained us to notice it, to comment on it, to make it the first and sometimes only thing we acknowledge. From the time a girl is young, she is taught that how she looks carries value, that her worth is wrapped in her smile, her body, her skin, her style. And while there's nothing wrong with recognizing beauty, the problem is when we stop there. When our compliments never rise above the surface. When we focus on how she looks instead of how she thinks. When we invest in her image but ignore her intellect. This happens every day in every space. A woman walks into a room and is greeted with compliments about her dress, her hair, her makeup, but no one asks about her ideas. No one leans in to hear her thoughts. Her presence is acknowledged, but her purpose is not. She's seen but not sought after, admired but not engaged. And over time, she begins to feel invisible in all the ways that matter most. Because the constant attention to her appearance begins to feel like a distraction. Like a deflection from the deeper parts of her identity. A woman's mind is not just worthy, it's necessary. Her insight, her strategy, her creativity, those are the things that build nations, solve problems, lead families, shift cultures. But we've been conditioned to prioritize beauty over brilliance. We'll tell her she's stunning before we ever tell her she's smart. We'll highlight her features before we ever highlight her focus. And the danger in that is we train her to value how she's perceived more than how she perceives. to put effort into being liked more than being learned, to invest more in being seen than being sharpened. We have to shift the standard. Because a woman who is only praised for her looks is left to believe that her mind is optional, that her body is the ticket and her brain is just baggage. But the truth is, real connection, real collaboration, real legacy, it's built on minds that meet, challenge, and stretch each other. If you want to honor a woman, ask her what she's building. Ask her what keeps her up at night. Ask her what she's reading, what she's praying for, what she's passionate about. Don't just compliment her outfit, challenge her vision. And when you challenge a woman's mind, don't do it to compete. Do it to contribute. There's a difference between challenging her to make her question herself and challenging her to make her grow. The goal isn't to undermine her confidence, it's to meet her in her brilliance and call it higher. Because when a woman is challenged in a healthy way, it activates her boom. It draws out the depth she's been carrying in silence. It reminds her that she's more than a reflection in the mirror. She's a force with something to say, something to solve, something to shape. Too often, women are underestimated intellectually simply because they walk in beauty, as if the two can't coexist, as if softness cancels out strategy, as if femininity disqualifies her from genius. And that has caused so many women to feel like they have to choose, be pretty or be powerful, be liked or be loud, be seen or be smart. But the truth is, a woman can be all of it. She can show up with red lipstick and radical ideas. She can wear heels and hold authority. She can slay her look and still slay in the boardroom, in the classroom, in the courtroom. If you never go beyond her appearance, you'll miss the brilliance God hid inside her. You'll miss the fire in her thoughts, the sharpness of her discernment, the depth of her understanding. You'll miss the way she sees the world, the way she solves problems, the way she senses what others don't even recognize. You'll miss the leader in her. You'll miss the strategist, the innovator, the teacher, the thinker. And most of all, you'll miss the opportunity to evolve beside her. A woman's mind is not just a bonus, it's a battlefield and a blueprint. It's where visions are birthed, where legacy is written, where strategy is formed. If all you ever do is compliment her beauty, you've only touched the wrapping, you haven't touched the gift, and she deserves to be known beyond her reflection. She deserves to be asked deep questions, to be pushed to deeper purpose, to be challenged in ways that awaken her, not objectify her. We've lived in a world that often mistakes a woman's silence for virtue. The quieter she is, the more graceful she's seen. The less she challenges, the more respectable she becomes. Her ability to endure without complaint is praised. Her capacity to keep peace even when it costs her peace is admired. But this kind of admiration isn't rooted in love, it's rooted in control. Because when a woman is silent, she becomes easier to manage, easier to predict, easier to ignore. And society has applauded that silence for generations. We tell her she's wise because she doesn't speak up. We call her mature when she chooses to remain quiet, even when injustice stares her in the face. We praise her composure when she swallows pain just to keep the room comfortable. But what if her silence isn't peace? What if it's pressure? What if it's fear? What if it's exhaustion from constantly calculating how much truth she's allowed to speak before she's labeled too emotional, too difficult, too much? The reality is, many women have been conditioned to believe that their voice is dangerous, that using it comes with consequences, that speaking up might cost them love, stability, opportunity, so they shrink their words. They filter their feelings. They become fluent in silence because they were never given the space or safety to speak freely. And the same world that silenced them has the audacity to celebrate them for not making noise. But silence is not always a sign of strength. Sometimes it's a scar. Sometimes it's survival. We need to stop clapping for women when they bite their tongues and start creating environments where they can use them. Stop saying, she's such a good woman, she never complains, and start asking, what has she been carrying that she's never felt safe enough to name? Because real empowerment doesn't happen in silence. Real healing doesn't happen in secrecy. Real progress doesn't happen in politeness. It happens when voices rise, when truth is spoken, when what's been buried is brought into the light. Empowering her voice means listening without defensiveness. It means creating space where she doesn't have to edit her story to make others comfortable. It means valuing her experience even when it challenges your own. It means honoring her perspective even when it's inconvenient. Because a woman's voice is not just for decoration, it's for direction. It carries discernment. It carries strategy. It carries generations of wisdom. And when we suppress it, we don't just silence one woman, we silence the legacy she was meant to release. There are women who have sat at tables full of thoughts, ideas, solutions, and said nothing. Not because they had nothing to say, but because they knew their words would be dismissed. Their passion would be misread. Their boldness would be called rebellion. And the people around them would smile, nod, and thank them for being easy to work with. But ease is not the goal. Elevation is. Comfort is not the prize. Contribution is. And until we stop applauding the absence of conflict more than the presence of clarity, we'll keep raising women to mute themselves just to survive the room. A powerful woman is not the one who never speaks. She's the one who knows when to speak, how to speak, and isn't afraid of what happens when she does. But that kind of power doesn't grow in a vacuum. It has to be nurtured. It has to be welcomed. It has to be modeled. She has to see that her voice has value, not just when it agrees, but even when it disrupts. Not just when it supports, but even when it corrects. Not just when it soothes, but even when it shakes. So many women are walking around with bottled up brilliance, holding back stories that could free someone else, holding in ideas that could shift systems, holding down power that was never meant to be contained. Not because they lack confidence, but because they lack community. They've learned how to be seen without being heard, how to show up without showing out, how to speak in ways that don't threaten the ego of the room. But that's not empowerment, that's endurance. And endurance was never meant to be her only gift. When we empower a woman's voice, we unlock more than just her sound. We unlock her substance. We give her permission to be fully present, fully honest, fully alive. We make space for conversations that change things. We allow truth to come from every corner of the room, not just the ones we've traditionally listened to, because her voice matters, not just when it whispers, not just when it agrees, not just when it's sweet. It matters when it roars. It matters when it questions. It matters when it refuses to be quiet. For years, women have been conditioned to be praised for their sacrifices, for their ability to give until they have nothing left. They've been told that their worth lies in their ability to endure hardship without complaint, to put others before themselves, to give away their time, energy, and spirit for the sake of others' comfort. We celebrate women for giving up their dreams, their desires, and their needs in the name of love, family, or responsibility. We applaud them for the sleepless nights, the quiet suffering, the emotional labor they carry with grace, as if their worth is proven by their willingness to sacrifice. But what happens when sacrifice becomes the standard? When a woman's value is measured by what she's willing to give up instead of what she's willing to take on? We teach women that their decisions should be made with the others in mind. Always consider the family. Always consider the partner. Always consider what's best for everyone else, even if it means losing yourself in the process. We condition women to believe that their ability to sacrifice is the ultimate expression of love, strength, and worth. But what we fail to realize is that this kind of thinking doesn't empower women. It traps them. It keeps them stuck in cycles of overgiving, overpleasing, and overcompromising. It teaches them that their needs don't matter. It makes them believe that their value is directly tied to how much they can endure, rather than how much they can flourish. The truth is, a woman's worth is not in her ability to give everything away. It's in her ability to make decisions that honor herself, her boundaries, and her purpose. A woman should be praised not for what she gives up, but for what she chooses to keep. She should be celebrated for her strength in saying no when no is necessary. She should be admired for her courage to choose her own growth, even when it conflicts with someone else's expectations. Because the decisions that honor her own well-being, her future, her dreams, those are the decisions that truly shape her life. They're the decisions that bring her closer to her calling, closer to her purpose, closer to the life she was meant to live. And those decisions are just as worthy of praise as the sacrifices that are made for others. When we begin to honor women's decisions, we stop teaching them to lose themselves in the name of love or duty. We stop teaching them that their lives are only valuable when they are in service to others. We teach them that they are worthy of the life they choose for themselves, even if it doesn't look like what others expect. We honor the woman who chooses to invest in her career and her personal growth, the one who sets boundaries to protect her peace, the one who decides that her dreams are just as important as anyone else's. We honor the woman who says, I need rest and I need time for myself, and I need to walk away from what no longer serves me. But that shift requires a deeper understanding. We must stop seeing women as just givers and start seeing them as whole people with needs, wants, and desires that deserve attention. A woman's ability to make decisions, especially those that prioritize her mental health, her happiness, and her ambitions, is not selfish, it's necessary. It's necessary for her growth, necessary for her well-being, and necessary for her success. When we honor a woman's decisions, we empower her to stand fully in her power, to embrace her worth without the fear of being judged for taking care of herself. We teach her that she does not need to sacrifice her essence to be loved, appreciated, or accepted. But the challenge here is that we've created a culture that often mistakes self-care for selfishness. We've created a culture where women are taught to give until there's nothing left and to do so without complaint. But we cannot continue to define a woman's worth by her ability to give to everyone else, leaving herself empty. We cannot continue to applaud her for making everyone around her happy while she loses herself in the process. True strength is not about endurance. It's about empowerment. It's about making decisions that honor your needs while still loving others. It's about finding balance, not depletion. It's about choosing what serves your future, not just what serves the moment. So let's begin to honor the decisions that lead women to whole lives, not just lives full of sacrifice. Let's create spaces where women are praised for taking ownership of their lives, for setting boundaries that allow them to thrive, and for making choices that align with their true selves. When we do that, we'll give them the freedom to live fully, to give generously, and to lead from a place of power, not exhaustion. Because when a woman is empowered to make decisions for her own life, she becomes unstoppable, and that is a force we should all celebrate. In conclusion, it's time we stop applauding the shrinking of women and start celebrating their full power. We must honor their voices, decisions, intellect, and authenticity, encouraging them to rise unapologetically, speak boldly, and take up the space they deserve. Let's move away from shallow praise and create a world where women are valued for their strength, complexity, and ambition. True empowerment comes when we challenge them to be more than what's expected and support them in becoming everything they are meant to be. Let's lift women up by embracing their greatness, not just tolerating their silence.